Hey everyone, it's Lexi. So in today's video, I'll be sharing with you all the books that I got over the month of December. So this is probably my biggest book haul of the year, hands down. And I take it in part that a lot of these were also like gifts as well. So because of my birthday and also Christmas being in December. But for the most part, like I took advantage of a lot of the book sales that were going on throughout the holidays. So I finished every book on my TBR, so I wanted to take advantage of doing that and reward myself for the books that I'm going to read over 2021. So they're kind of all over in terms of genre and topics and all that, so I think it's going to be pretty exciting. So I want to keep this pretty fast in terms of talking about some of these because I don't want to make you guys sit here for 20 minutes. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. And as you guys saw, I do have my Etsy store now. I'll include some pictures here of some of the things that I'm making, but I'll include that down in the description bar if you're interested in seeing some of the stuff I've made. But yeah, let's just go hop into the video. So first up, I first have 3 books by the same author, and I first have Britt-Marie Was Here, A Man Called Ove, and My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You She's Sorry, but all by Fedrik Backman. I started reading Fedrik Backman earlier this year in 2020, and I fell in love with his lyrical writing, and I've just really loved his story. I read Beartown and then Us Against You, I think it's called, or Us Against You, and so I really wanted to pick up some of his other works. My aunt has read quite a few of these actually, so and she really enjoyed them, so I'm really excited for these. Like I said, his writing is very whimsical and like lyrical, so I'm really excited to see what he has in store for these, and I feel like a lot of them will be like tearjerkers, so I'm ready to hurt all over again. So this is one that I'm super excited about, and it is Dragonfly by Leila Meacham. And so basically the premise of this story, it follows 5 people who are recruited by the OSS during World War II, and they end up becoming spies for America during, like, they invade Nazi Germany and they become spies of different parts of the world for the war effort. And it just seemed really interesting. I think their code name group is called Dragonfly, so I'm really excited about these. I've read a few like spy World War II books, and I've really enjoyed them in the past, so I think this one will be really fun as well, especially because we follow 5 different Americans from different backgrounds. So this one just really intrigued me, and I haven't been reading a lot of historical fiction over this past year, and I think it's because I didn't have very many on my shelf as I was trying to take down my TBR. So you can see, like, you'll see throughout this book haul that I do have a lot of historical fiction. So this is one that is a mix of magical realism, and I was very intrigued by it, and it is Midnight at the Blackbird Cafe by Heather Weber. And so basically it follows this woman who goes back to this small town in order to bury her grandmother, and she doesn't want to make any connections or form any ties with this town, but she ends up kind of slowly getting intrigued with this town. Her grandmother had a cafe called the Blackbird Cafe and had a blackberry pie that everyone keeps talking about, a blackbird pie everyone can't stop talking about, and it kind of goes off from there. But I think it has some magical realism aspects in here, and I haven't read magical realism in a long time as well, so I think this one will be very interesting, and I just really loved this cover, so I was like, I couldn't resist. So next up I have Why Not Me by Mindy Kaling, which is one of her memoirs. I love The Office, and I've been a big fan of hers for a while. I've never watched the Mindy Project, but that's one that's on my list that I need to like get to. But I've read like a couple, like I've read Amy Poehler's biography, Jenna Fisher's, so like a lot of people that are in like the Parks and Rec office sphere, I've read their books, and I haven't read hers yet, and she's a writer, so I'm very interested to see this. But yeah, I think she's really funny, and I think she's also a very good writer as well, so I'd love to kind of read this and kind of see. And like I said, this has been on my radar for so long, so I'm happy I finally picked it up. This is one that's also been on my radar for a while, but I've just never gotten around to get it, and it's been out for a couple years now, and it is The Life She Was Given by Ellen Marie Wiseman. I've read a few of this author's books before, and so I'm very curious to see what I think of this one. I know it involves a circus in a historical setting, and I assume that it has like a dual parallel storyline, so I'm kind of expecting more of those as well. But for some reason, I don't know why this one is like shrink wrap, but yeah, but I'm really excited for this. I've loved her other works. I'm trying to remember, I think it was The plum tree was one. I'm trying to look at my shelf, and I think it's What She Left Behind. So I think, yeah, What She Left Behind was another one as well that I really enjoyed. So I think this one will also be very interesting as well, and I think the circus setting will just be a lot of fun. So these next two are by the same author, and I think they're going to be really exciting. So the first one is The Beekeeper's Promise by Fiona Valpy. And so basically the premise of this story, it follows a woman who goes to this chateau in France in present day, and while she's there she gets intrigued by one of the, I want to say like portraits of a woman, or one of the people that was involved in this chateau in the 1930s during World War II in France. And so it kind of follows the story of these two women in different time periods with, you know, different storylines. So I think this one will be really interesting. And then the second one here is The Dressmaker's Gift, which is another World War II historical fiction. So we follow 3 women during World War II who are seamstresses during the Nazi occupation in France. And so each woman kind of has a different role. In the one person's a part of the resistance, one person has been seduced by a German officer, like that type of thing. So we follow these 3 women's story, and then present day we follow another character who's learning more about her grandmother's past. So I assume it's probably one of these women. But yeah, it seemed intriguing. Like I said, I wasn't joking when I said I have a lot of historical fiction in this haul. So one of the books I read this year that made me re-fall in love with this time period was Lost Roses by Martha Hall Kelly, which follows the Russian Revolution and the fall of the Tsar. And I was always fascinated with that period in time, and then so I was just happy, like just kind of looking through to see if there were any more books about this time period. And so this author has like 3 different books about this, like the Romanovs. So I settled with the first one first, and it's the Romanov sisters, which describes each of the sisters of the Romanovs and their different personalities, and we kind of follow them as they grow up and ultimately their untimely death. But I think this one, like I read the reviews for these, and everyone says like she's able to really connect you, like the author is able to really connect you to these people, and just how like just being so connected to these 4 different sisters. And so I'm really excited about this. Like I said, I'm very much a history nerd, and I think this one will be really interesting. And yeah, it's like, especially because you know how it's going to end, like I think it'll be interesting kind of reading that from that perspective. So next up, this is a continuation of a series that I've been reading for a couple years now, and it's one of the newer ones because I like to keep them all in paperback, so I'm kind of delayed in being caught up. But this is the next one in this series, and it is The Girl from Berlin by Ronald H. Balson. And basically the premise of this series, it follows 2 people, one's a lawyer and one person is a private detective, and they kind of solve crimes that have been committed in, I got surround sound email, sorry about that. They solve crimes that have been committed throughout history. So one of them is like World War II is a popular one, like different things throughout history where crimes have been committed, but those people that committed those crimes weren't held accountable, so it kind of goes off from there. But I really like this series. It's a lot of fun, and I think because it covers so many different storylines throughout history, it makes it fun and fresh every time. So this is one that I think is very relevant now in terms of the subject matter it talks about, and it is The Orphan Collector by Ellen Marie Wiseman, another one from this author. And so basically this one covers the Spanish flu pandemic from 1918. So I think this one, especially because I think this was written a couple years before this current pandemic, so it'll be interesting reading this, kind of knowing what we kind of are going through now and being able to relate to these characters. And I think this is another one where it has like a dual storyline as well, so I think it'll be very interesting as well, just because seeing how people in 1918 were handling the pandemic versus now, I think will be very interesting. This is one that I'm really interested about, and I think it just sounds very intriguing for me, and it is When We Were Brave by Suzanne Kelman. And so basically the premise of this story is that it follows this woman who it elopes to a Nazi prisoner of war, and she's never seen again after that. And she became a disgrace of her family because she kind of was blinded by her love at this time, and so she was never really talked about for 75 years in this family until present day. We follow this woman who is one of the grandchildren or someone within her great aunt, sorry, when she finds this picture of her great aunt from World War II, she's kind of thrown into confusion and wants to know more about her aunt and what went down. So I'm really excited for this. Like I said, I'm a sucker for World War II like dual storylines, so like 2021 is just going to be the year of that. So this is one that I think is very intriguing, especially the time period that it takes place in. And it is the Paragon Hotel by Lindsay Faye. And this is one that I think was the like staff picks for chapters that Heather does. And I usually like a lot of hers. So this one seemed very interesting when I was like scrolling through her like selection. And so this play takes place in the 1920s, and it follows this girl who's spent her entire life basically battling the mafia. So when she is, you know, on the run from the mafia with a gunshot wound, she is saved by these group of people who take her to the Paragon Hotel, which is a hotel for Black people. And so obviously this is in a very Jim Crow area, and it deals a lot with the KKK and all that stuff. So I think it'll be interesting bringing to like exploring kind of the racism that was a fact during this time period, to show like how little the societal kind of structure has changed. And so I think it'll be very interesting. Like I said, it just seems really intriguing, so I'm really excited for this one. So this is one will be like a fun read, and it is the Ickabog by JK Rowling. This is one that this is like a fairy tale she was releasing chapter by chapter throughout the early days of the pandemic. And so what I think is neat is that kids would kind of send in their illustrations, and so they're kind of scattered throughout. But I don't really want to know too much about this one. I think it'll just be fun, but like look at the cute little kid illustrations. So this is by someone who's 8 years old. That's what my drawing looks like now. So, or like these, like they're actually like, I think that's really cute. And so yeah, I thought this one will just be like a fun fairy tale read. So this is one that I find very intriguing, and it kind of, I don't know, I get like when I read the synopsis, it reminded me of Where the Crawdad Sings by Delia Owen. So I'm curious to see what I think of this one. And it is The Scent Keeper by Erica Bauermeister. And so basically the premise of this, it follows a girl and her dad who kind of live in a remote island, and he teaches her to explore the world through her senses. But what he doesn't explain to her are the mysterious scents that are stored in these like mason jars. And so her life kind of gets thrown upside down when she's kind of thrust into the real world, and it kind of goes off from there. But this one seemed interesting, and I don't know, like I've liked a lot of the Reese Witherspoon's like book club picks, so I'm curious to see what I feel about this one. But I think like I'm getting similar vibes to Where the Crawdad Sings, but I don't think that's a bad thing. So next up I have the 3 Inspector Gamache books by Louise that I need in order to have like all the books in order now, so I can actually like marathon through them. So those were A Great Reckoning, A Better Man, and Glass Houses. I really love this series. I definitely want to just kind of like marathon through them, like dedicate like a month and just read as many as I can. And I did that a few times in 2019. I really enjoyed it. So yeah, I'm excited for this now that I can do that, because I had like 1 and then I didn't have 2, and I had 2 and then I didn't have 1. So now I have the full set now, so I can dedicate a lot of time to reading this. But as you guys know, I've been talking about this for a while, and it's just a really unique crime series that I think a lot of you guys will enjoy. So yeah, I'm really excited now that I have at least up until the one that came out this year, because it's in hardback, and I would like to keep everything in paperback. So next, these are ones that were sent to me by the publisher unsolicited, and so yeah, I'll let you know about them. One of them I have already read, and it is Bone Canyon by Lee Goldberg. I got like the ARC version of this one, but I think this one comes out in January, I want to say, so relatively soon. But this is one that actually took me by surprise. It follows Eve Ronan, who ended up becoming viral because she arrested a celebrity that was abusing his girlfriend, and so the police needed the positive press, and Eve used that to her advantage in order to get promoted into homicide. So she knows that she used that to her advantage in order to get to her dream job, so she always feels the need to prove herself, and it kind of goes off from there. But yeah, this one took me by surprise, and I really am excited for this series because I have a new kind of crime series to look forward to. This was another one that was sent to me as well, and it is the second book in a series. I haven't read the first one, so I'll have to get that one as well. But it is Spin by Patricia Cornwell, and this is the second book in the Captain Chase novel. Like I said, I haven't read the first one, but I've read Patricia Cornwell's Kay Scarpetta series and I've really enjoyed it, so I'm curious about this one. But I think it's like, so it says, in the aftermath of a NASA rocket launch gone terribly wrong, Captain Callie Chase comes face to face with her missing twin sister, as well as the startling truth of who they really are. So I think this one is actually, like, this actually sounds very intriguing, so I actually might even pick up the first one for this one, probably from the library, because I have bought a lot of books recently and I'm on a budget now. But yeah, this one actually seems really interesting. So I wasn't aware of this series, but I'm happy that I got the second one because it seems like a good series to kind of start. And lastly, this is an ARC that I was sent, and it is The Prodigal Son by Greg Horowitz, and it is an Orphan X novel. I don't really know anything about this one, but it says he was pulled as a boy from the Pride House group home and trained to become Orphan X, one of the most elite assassins in the world. In time, he left the world to become the Nowhere Man, working from the shadows to help those who could not save themselves. It sounds like kind of like the Bourne Identity series, like the movies. I don't know. It seems interesting. Like, I think it'll be interesting as well. So this one comes out in January, so if you're interested in it, but this seems like something a little bit different than what I normally read, but I'm kind of intrigued. So these are ones that were sent to me by a subscriber, and so these ones are very near and dear to my heart. So thank you again for Lisa for sending these to me. The first one is The Secret History by Donna Tartt. This is one that I get, like, it sounds like it's like dark academia with like a murder, essentially. I don't really want to know too much about this plot, but I just want to kind of go into it blind, and I have heard really great things about this, so I think this one will be like perfect to read kind of around September, October, just with like the dark academia feels and just kind of that eeriness. So I'm really excited for this one. Like I said, I have never read a Donna Tartt book, but I'm very intrigued with this one. Lisa also picked me up Stamped from the Beginning by Ibram X. Kendi, and so this is one that I think is very interesting because it talks about the history of racism, racist ideas in America, and so I think this one will be very interesting. I plan on doing a Black History Month kind of readathon for myself. You guys obviously can join, so this is one of the books that I would like to read, and I think especially with everything that's happened this year, I think like I've just been like, I want to be more involved and more knowledgeable about these things and not be kind of back in the shadows, not really doing anything. So I want to be more active, and in order to be kind of more to be a activist in this area, I need to have the knowledge background in order to kind of help these movements, and so I feel like this one will help with that as well. And just covering the history of racism, I think, will be very interesting. I've read a few of them already, and it's very intriguing, and so this one I'm really excited about as well because I think it'll be very meaningful. And then finally, this is another one that Lisa sent me, and it was just amazing. I just finished reading this yesterday, and it is the Mina Lima edition of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. And this one was honestly such a delight to read because it has like all these like interactive things, and I was like so dainty with everything, because I'm like I even kept like the tissue paper in here because I'm like, this is precious and I don't want to destroy it, but you can like pull this out, and it's just very interactive. And it's like, one day when I have kids, it'll be nice that they'll have like this edition of it. So yeah, it was just a lot of fun, and yeah, I feel like this kind of visual kind of component to the reading as well just makes it a lot of fun. So this is one that my sister got me for my birthday, and it is These Women by Ivy Pochada, and yeah, I think this one seems really intriguing. I have no idea where she got an arc of this one, but kudos to my sister. But essentially it follows 5 different women who live very different lives, but they're all connected by one man and his deadly obsession, and that's really all I kind of want to know about this one. It seems like really interesting and dark and spooky and kind of like Criminal Minds-esque, so I think this one will just be a lot of fun. Alrighty, we are nearing the end. I've tried my best to keep it short and sweet, but I feel like we're just going on forever. But these ones are the non-fiction books that I picked up that I think are just going to be super interesting. And so the first one is The Rise and Fall of the Dinosaurs by Steve Rostat. I don't know how to say his name, but I'm really excited for this one. When I was little, I really wanted to be an archaeologist, or paleontologist, sorry. I was obsessed with dinosaurs. Like, our parents would take us to the ROM, and we would go see the dinosaurs like every weekend. We would alternate between like the zoo one weekend and the ROM another weekend, but it's just, yeah, I was obsessed with dinosaurs. I loved The Land Before Time. Like I said, I wanted to be a paleontologist before I realized that I don't really like physical labor and I burn in the sun very easily. But yeah, I think this one will be very interesting, just kind of going over the rise of dinosaurs and eventually how they became extinct, which, like, the little paleontologist nerd in me is just gonna be thriving reading this. Next is the one that me and my boyfriend are really excited about because we both got this year, and it is 21 Lessons for the 21st Century by Yuval Noah Harari. So I got my boyfriend into this author. He read Homo Sapiens and Homo Deus. He read both of those, and so we're gonna read this one together as well. But it goes into 20 lessons for the 21st century, and it talks about technology. He kind of goes into this in Homo Deus, but it looks like immigration, community, work, like different things, politics, and all that, and war. So I think those be very interesting as well. And the anthro nerd in me is super excited for this one. So if you guys don't know, one of my bachelor's degrees was in anthropology, and so this is one that I'm like super excited about, and it's Kindred, which is Neanderthal Life, Love, Death, and Art by Rebecca Ragg Sykes. And so this talks about the subspecies of like Homo sapiens that were Neanderthals, and it kind of goes into their history, and I think they're very interesting because the media depiction of Neanderthals are just being like stupid and kind of like cavemen-esque, but they were actually kind of more like tech savvy than the Homo sapiens that were also running around here. They were a bit more advanced than them, but like just how they came extinct is just super interesting, and all that, like, they still don't know. But yeah, I think this one is just going to be super interesting. Alrighty, we are down to our last 3 books, and so the first one is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig, and this is one that I'm super excited about. It's actually going to be the book club pick for January and February, but essentially this one is about a person who stumbles into the Midnight Library, which so she is kind of like suicidal, I guess, and so she ends up finding herself in the Midnight Library where she has a chance to kind of redo things in her life differently. And I think this one will be really interesting. A few of you already mentioned in the comments like some of your favorite books that you've read this year was this one, so I have high expectations for this one. So this is one that I'm very excited about, and it is All the Ways We Said Goodbye by Beatrice Williams, Lauren Willig, and Karen White. So essentially this is one that follows, so it says the heiress, the resistance fighter, the widow, three women whose fates are joined by one legendary hotel. So it seems like, so we have like a 1914 storyline. I think it's like Hotel Ritz, so like the Ritz Hotel in France. So it follows one woman's experience with the World War I. Then we have another story involving the Ritz Hotel in 1942, and then one in 1964 as well. And I love how this combines like 3 different periods of human history. So yeah, this one will be very interesting. Like I said, very excited for this one. So this is one that I think I'm also very intrigued about. Like I said, a lot of these are historical based, and so this one is The Lions of Fifth Avenue by Fiona Davis. And so essentially this one follows, so it's like in 1913, it follows a woman who ends up applying for the Columbia Journalism School, and she gets involved with the Heterodoxy Club, which is a radical all-female group in which women are encouraged to loudly share their opinions on suffrage, birth control, and women's rights. So she ends up becoming kind of this very like feminist icon during this time, like a feminist revolutionary. And then it goes to 80 years later, which follows a woman named Sadie who's struggling with the legacy of her grandmother, especially after she's gotten a job as a curator at the New York Public Library, but the job quickly becomes a nightmare when rare manuscripts, notes, and books from the exhibit Sadie's Rowling begin disappearing from the library's famous Berg collection. So it kind of goes off from there, but I think this one will be very interesting, especially covering kind of like the feminist movement in the, you know, the 10s era. I think will be just super interesting. Alrighty guys, so that is it. Congrats to you if you stuck around this long to see all the books I got, but I feel like I'm set now for 2021. I did a good job at tackling my TBR, like reading every book on my TBR in 2020, so that is my goal. So these are the books that I plan to finish in 2021, so I'm really excited for it. I feel like it will be a very historically fiction based, you know, reading year, but I'm not complaining about that. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below what some of the books that you got this month were and all of that fun stuff. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time. Bye guys.